Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne Casdia. I am Lorianne. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show. I am life and business transformational success coach, and what I do is I illuminate and empower others to find and embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, and forge a strong foundation to soar to success. That's a lot of information that might be meaningless, but if you want more information about it, please go to ldcstrategies.com or loriannecasdia.com. Today on our show, we have our good friends again, Marianne Hedges Hennigar. We brought her back, and just a little bit about her. She lived in Europe as a child, experiencing deep cross-cultural immersion. And in that time, she developed a fascination with the human condition. And it was these formative years that she began doing healing work as her mother had suffered body pain. And she's self-taught acupressure and basic massage. And eventually in adulthood, she got a certification as a clinical sports massage therapist. And then let's fast forward to many years later, she had some breaks in between. She landed in a pandemic. And in those years of hands-on healing, she learned that body pain is accompanied by unprocessed emotions and trauma. And she actually developed her own system, and she's in the process of adding elements, and eventually a little sneak preview is she'll be certifying other practitioners to be performing these modalities with their clients. And she developed this approach to help people help themselves called Psycho-emotive Anatomy. And that during the pandemic, it spurred her on to gain education and certification to address the trauma everyone experienced during shutdown. And so she combines her knowledge in body pain. She trained as well as a wellness coach with the Mayo Clinic of all places, and added techniques in mind-body-based approaches of somatic experiencing and brainspotting, and other magical things we'll talk about today. And these blended offered a guided focus experience to help her clients with trauma and anxiety, and incredibly successful. And on the show today, in the second half, we're so excited that we're going to have two of her clients come in, and we're going to have conversations about what it is like to work with Marianne. So Marianne, welcome to the show. Thank you back, my friends.
Thank you, Lorianne. It's so good to see you today.
Good to see you too. We don't get to see each other all the time, right?
Awesome. We're both very busy.
Yeah, very, very busy. So, that was a lot of information about what you do, but let's like ratchet it back. Let's step back a little bit and explain the various modalities that you have combined to be able to serve your clients.
Certainly. So as you mentioned before, I trained as a clinical and orthopedic massage therapist way back in 1994, and had worked on people for years and started noticing patterns linking specific kinds of experience that people were reporting on with specific places in the body where they were experiencing either some type of injury, pain, or sensation. And so I was noticing these patterns. I realized that in clients always telling their stories when you work with them, because that's what they do with bartenders and massage therapists and hairdressers. So noticing these patterns, I started being curious with my clients when they would report an area of pain. And I would say, well, I've heard other people talk about this area of pain, and XYZ is happening in their life. Is that happening in your life right now? And more often than not, people would report some correlation to that body part and that specific experience. For example, right here at the seventh cervical vertebra, which is the humpy place between the neck and the top of the shoulders, right?
Sure.
That's C7. And very often people would report, oh, I think I have a lot of tension there. Well, it turned out very often it was accompanied with having had their feelings hurt and activating the critical voice within. Very often the origins of the critical voice within came from an adult figure in the person's life, perhaps a parent, and then later morphed into their own critical voice within. And so it's normal that people would see stress as the activator of that, but it's this internal critical dialogue. And so what I found magically, seemingly, is when it was an accurate pinpoint for that client, the pain would dissipate and or go away without touching.
Gotcha.
So that was very, very interesting. So that was where Psycho-emotive Anatomy was born. And I developed a system to help people help themselves, because the work that I did was so specialized in terms of pain management that people were becoming dependent. And no therapist, whether they're talk therapists or a body therapist of some sort, can withstand total dependency. They need to help people help themselves in order to help more people.
Yeah.
So it was off and running. So I've continued my research over all these years. Either I'm in a talk session with clients and or if I'm doing some type of touch work. And the spots that I've named so far play out almost every time, some permutation.
Right. Yeah. So what you're doing through serving your clients, you're also getting scientific data that supports the serving of the clients, because you're finding these patterns. And I know as a coach, when I'm looking at numbers or we're working together on whatever the issue is, I'm always looking for some kind of pattern. Is there a pattern associated to whatever the actual activity is? And so it sounds like that's what you're doing, is you're looking for that pattern. And that pattern is when you have an emotional experience, you're going to feel that tension here. Your feelings are being hurt. That right. I find that very intriguing.
It is intriguing. And I always couch it from the question standpoint rather than making a statement to the client about that spot, because they need to refine it in order to receive relief. And so these repeatable patterns, that's a scientific method, right? Is a pattern that that's reproducible and can be documented over and over and over again. What's so fun about psychomotive anatomy is that clients take the method and run with it. They morph it into their own thing. And they use it as a tool to understand more deeply what they might be experiencing and be able to pinpoint it in order to develop their own relief.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. You're teaching us how to identify. A lot of people don't pay attention to the pains in their body. They just kind of like, okay, here it is again. And they just ignore it as opposed to focusing on it. And it's almost like when you go into a doctor's office and they're like, how you doing? And you're like, fine. And they're like, well, you wouldn't be here if you were fine. So what's going on? And have you ever had this, or have you ever had that? And it reminds you, it's like, oh yeah, I did. You forget because we push it to the side and we just keep moving forward. And you are reminding and teaching people to be aware of their body as well. So there's a connectivity. Let's talk about that connectivity, because our experiences run deep cellularly. So let's talk about that, because I found that incredibly fascinating on our last interview.
Yeah. So thank you for asking about that. So I believe, as a body worker, other people may disagree, the head people may disagree, but as a body worker and a mind body worker, I see the entire body as the repository of memory and experience. The brain is the sorting factor. The deeper parts of the brain are what keep us alive in fight, flight, freeze. And then also those deeper parts of the brain are where our emotions lie. Right. So when we work with the body and the mind, we're able to process through old emotional experience. And that's where the additional training came in for me, because I realized that if I was going to be working with a whole person approach, I needed some psychoeducation.
Sure.
And so I've been in graduate school since 2019, off and on between two different schools for a master's in counseling. And it's been very important for me to learn about things like developmental psychology, because it helps me understand where people are at when they seem to be at a young age, that there are certain brain functions of that young age that need some help to upgrade into the adult self. That's complicated to say something like that in such a short sentence or in a short interview, but I do help people understand and unfold these mechanisms, naturally occurring mechanisms within themselves. So the master's program, yes, and realized that I needed to be working as a coach. So went and got my training at Mayo Clinic. And that's, those are several hats that I wear. With the somatic experiencing, it's also body-based modality that's developed by Dr. Peter Levine. Brilliant. If the audience is interested, please allow yourself to read his books, listen to his audio tapes, or go to the Ergos Institute to learn about the trainings. And then also Dr. David Grand, who developed Brainspotting. He is really, really brilliant guy who started out was psychoanalysis, was a big guy in the EMDR world, which is a rapid movement, eye movement technique, and then developed his own thing after many years of training of brain spotting. And that's absolutely brilliant. And so I incorporate the brain body based techniques of both of these schools to
for our listeners, Viviana just joined us. You can't see that because we're on radio, but for our viewing members, yes, Viviana, welcome. We'll talk to you in a little bit. We're going to finish this first half of the show. You're our little early bird. We appreciate you. So continue what you were saying, Marianne.
Great. And so using the techniques of both practices and combining them with psycho-emotive anatomy and really bringing on board what I know about how the body works. Excuse me. It is an orchestrated experiential. So what I do is not therapy, but it's an experiential with therapeutic results.
Yeah.
Also very fun and playful.
It actually is.
Yes, it is.
I've been through it. We spoke about it before. And I love that you add the element of color to it because you have an artist background. I mean, I'm looking at your background now and it's very artistic. So I love it. And the use of color is really interesting. And that intrigued me so much. So in addition to the somatic experience, you do brain spotting. And you bring some of this, what you're looking at behind you, which are different art pieces, if you will, full of color, to do the brain spotting. And then you also add that color element, that technicolor, that brain spotting and technicolor. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so since I orchestrate through between brain spotting, somatic experiencing, and psycho-emotive anatomy with body techniques, I call it guided body-based focus. And the technicolor part comes in is the thing that I have been developing with clients. And it does involve the use of color. When the guided focus session starts, the client and I we have checked in with the sensations in the body, found a place in the visual field, which is straight from brain spotting, for them to go ahead and focus on, either in a greater activation state in the body or a more calm activation state in the body. But then what I find happens, and I'm guessing this is because I'm a fine art sculptor and painter, somehow they start developing a relationship with the object that they're gazing at, in addition to noticing sensations. And so very often what they'll see is a bright light around the object. This is repeated from one client to the next, whether they're in their own environment through Zoom or they're in my environment with the tools that I offer. And so focusing in technicolor is a really, really interesting, exciting, fascinating way to help process through old emotions.
Yeah, I experienced it myself with you, and it was like colors dancing around this object that I was looking at. It was really interesting, and it through that process, it was a calming. Because there was a calming, and then awareness of what I was supposed to really focus on and getting answers to the questions that I had. So it's really exciting. And I was watching the colors dance. So, there were multiple colors and they were dancing back and forth. So I thought that was really interesting. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. We are speaking with Marianne Hedges Hennigar, and we're going to continue our conversation. Marianne, you're from Insight Healing Ministries, and I'm just shifting the conversation a little bit to just remind everybody that they could reach you at Facebook at Insight Healing Inc. or Instagram at Insight Healing Inc. and experience this and communicate with you to have this experience as well. I find it magical, mystical, and exciting that it does work because it is fun. And yet at the same time, I'm getting answers. I know I had one, and we talked about this the last time I had one experience with you, and I literally took care of something that was I'm going to refer to it in my terminology, in my coaching terminology. I took care of this block that I had since I was 21 months old that I didn't even realize was there, but it was definitely showing me patterns. Once we discovered it, it was showing me the patterns of why I do what I do or why I did what I did. And now with that awareness, I have choices. I can continue doing it that way, or I can make different choices. And in this particular case, it would allow me to make different choices. So do you find that your clients get excited about it? Because I know I have to understand everything. So I ask a gazillion questions, but do you find that your clients get excited about it?
Often they're beside themselves with excitement. Yes, because it's not me doing something to you. It is your nervous system harnessing the raw power of sorting itself out. And I'm so grateful to both Peter and to David for what they discovered and noticed and developed and offered out there, because I've really been able to slingshot off of what I've learned from their modalities and launch into something that is powerful, primal, and naturally occurring in the nervous system.
And it's your methodology, right? So you're looking at us holistically, which, that's a passion of mine. We can't separate our head from our body. We have to look at ourselves holistically, and our practitioners, our therapists, our partners, whatever, they need to be able to provide holistically. So I think it's totally brilliant that you combine the two and went, oh, I see the need here. Let me combine these. So, and just like Monet, great painters today studied Monet and studied what the foundations he laid and other artists laid to do the art that they're doing, right? And you're doing the same thing. You're taking what other practitioners in your industry, therapists, or how do you refer to yourself? Because you don't usually refer to it as therapy. So how do you refer to yourself?
Well,
practitioner?
Yeah. So sorry. Yes, I'm a coach basically, but I am a mental health and wellness facilitator. I'm also Yes, I'm a facilitator, because the client's the one that's doing the work. I'm simply supporting their naturally occurring pinpointing. It's like David Grand described when he noticed that, a fixed visual field of places where people process from when he discovered brain spotting. And so, and he noticed something. He had an inspiration, I may call it divine inspiration, to notice that. The thing that we all do, which is stare off into space. We don't see that as daydreaming is what we call it, but it's actually a tool. What I've noticed in the visual field is that something that we would normally blink away is a little ripple of color or a little change of shape of something. That's actually processing. Focus on that, on the object. So
yeah, it's so funny to say that, because when I'm speaking too, sometimes you'll see me look in a different direction. It's me gathering my thoughts and really, changing my thought, and referencing something of the past. It's almost like me going into a file cabinet kind of a thing. But if I continue looking at you, it's more difficult for me to access the file.
Exactly. And that's what's interesting too, when you have a focal point and the body starts doing all sorts of things with sensation and blinking eyes and dry mouth or saliva mouth or twitching of face or, tingles in the body. That's the body talking. That's a language. Those aren't symptoms, because the word symptoms is dismissive. It'd be like saying if me talking to you was a symptom of me wanting to communicate. That doesn't make any sense. It's a communication. So we can see body sensation and pain as a language or as a communication. We can then find creative ways to act on it. And using our visual field really helps with that. And that's a big focus for David Grand with the brain spotting. Peter Levine and his program is a 3-year program, does do some visual stuff, but different from David Grand. And so we all bring a little something different to it.
Yeah, no. And again, you've created your methodology like I created mine. I've worked with some of the greats in my coaching industry, Bob Proctor, Jack Canfield, Marianne Morrissey, Joe Dispenza, working with them, Tony Robbins, working with them and bringing those modalities to create mine. Our methodology. I'm doing it and taking what I think my clients can use and being exposed and having the Lorianne method, if you will. And this is the Marianne methodology. And I love that you combine the three and you're taking it to the next level. And some people are like, well, they're doing it wrong, or you're changing it, or no, change is good. Methods and therapies and even coaching, it has to have evolution. It has to evolve. We're evolving, so it has to evolve. So what you're doing, total brilliance, Marianne. I love this. I think it's great.
It is so much fun. And that's what I love, is adding this element of play, because we can bring our child self on board. Because how do children process through traumatic events? By play or react. That's how they process. And so if we can harness the power of play and enjoy the process. I mean, who says, oh, I can't wait to go see go to my session, my processing session. You don't hear that, oh, I'm so excited to go. Let's go play, And so
I do. I want to go play. It's so much fun. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne, and we're here with Marianne Hedges Hennigar from Insight Healing Inc. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to not only continue our conversation with Marianne, but we're also going to bring in other people who have experienced the services that she provides. And it's so exciting. So don't go away. We will be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. And if you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or non-for-profit, or if you just have a question or comment, feel free to email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. And, we've spoken about this before. I am a success coach, love working with people who are starting a business, wanting to start a business, in a business, and you just want to leap to new hurdles. Love to work with you. Just give us a call, reach out to us at ldcstrategies.com. Really looking forward to helping you shift your mindset, harness your talents, and remove resistance and rise above any limitations so you could soar to success. Anyway, with that said, we have the great, wonderful Marianne Hedges Hennigar, and dear friend, by the way. And we have been joined by our two beautiful guests. We have Angelique and we have Vivana, and we have the most exquisite names going on right now with our guests. It's beautiful. Welcome to the show, Angelique and Vivana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Marianne, so we were talking about the methods you have and that you're putting together this methodology. You do somatic experiencing and brain spotting added with a touch of color. You enhance it. And you have a specific phrase you use at Insight Healing Inc. for this experience. And it's say it again for us.
Guided body-based focus.
Yeah. Guided body-based focus.
It replaces the word therapy, guided body-based focus. And it is an experiential, that's what I call the sessions, experiential, as opposed to therapy session, because it's very different from regular talk therapy. But and the results are therapeutic.
Yeah. And I have experienced it, and Vivana and Angelique have experienced it. And I'd like to speak to each of you about what that was like for you. So Viviana, let's start with you. Love your first name, by the way. And Angelique, I love these names. They're so magical. So Viviana, explain to us how it felt. And when you first went in, did you have any experience with this before when you saw Marianne?
I had experience with somatic experiencing. So she and I are in the same cohort. When I met her, she just was this amazing force that walked into the room, and I was immediately drawn to her, and I was like, come sit over here. And so that's how we met. And we were in the same triad. So she started doing her body-based focus on me through the work that we were doing together. And it was just unlike anything I've ever experienced. I mean, I've been doing therapy for many, many years on myself. I've been a client of therapy for many, many years. And I could immediately see that my body and my perspective of life and the way I saw life and my orienting to my environment was changed immediately after working with her just once.
Isn't that amazing? And how did you feel about that? Were you shocked? Were you amazed? Did you expect it?
Extremely excited, because I've been looking for this for my whole life.
Yeah.
So I knew it was out there. I'm like, it's out there because I've tasted it in drips and drabs, with other modalities. And I'm like, there has to be something better, like all these different modalities that I would jump around. And then I was like, oh my God. So Marianne brings all of the modalities and she unifies them, and it works much more effectively than just one modality.
Yeah. And to speak a little woo-woo, which I do a lot here, the gravitational pull that you felt is very much an essence of Marianne, because she's very angelic and it's just like you're drawn to her, and in a very positive, wonderful way. And then there's a calmness that she brings. Angelique, you bring it as well. There's a calmness that you bring as healers. All of you do as healers to crazy people like me who are super balls, who just like bounce. That is just so beautiful. And what it does is it actually refocuses us just by the pure essence of your presence. And I thought that was, part of my experience. I don't know if you experienced that as well, Viviana.
Yes, absolutely. Like, I just want to be around her all the time.
Yeah. Common message I've heard from many, many people. So, and it is really the brilliance of putting all these modalities together in one place so that you can get the best. And she's so easily shifts between that it's almost seamless. Like you don't notice unless you're paying attention and asking lots of questions, as I do. I'm like, why'd you do that? And she'll explain it. And I'm like, okay, why'd you do that? And she'll explain it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because the more informed I am, it just seems that makes it easier for me to serve myself. And I think, Marianne, isn't that part of why you do the movement the way you do?
Yeah. Not only are we having an experiential session, but it's also a teaching moment for you to learn more about how your nervous system works, because I don't want you dependent on me. I want you to be able self-healing, and your nervous system is created to self-heal given the right circumstances. Yeah. And so clients go away with these tools. They don't go away with that session. They go away with more tools in their toolbox so that they can help themselves. We don't come with an owner's manual. And so we all need help. And you said to me before, Lorianne, the coach needs a coach. And so always. That's the effect. So.
Always. If you have a coach that doesn't have a coach, if you have a doctor that doesn't go to the doctor, that's not really, you have to really, to be served properly, you need to understand yourself. And I liken this, as well as other things, similarly to sports. So when I went to a golf teacher, and my golf teacher taught me how to do the swing, and in front of the golf teacher, Johnny was like, yeah, that's perfect. Now we need to get it up to this speed. And he knew how to shift and move me so that I would get the results that I needed to get. Right. And you guys do the same thing. But here's the other step that you're also doing. And I said to him, and I asked him, pelted him with all these questions, because I need to be able to make those determinations when he's not around, similarly to when you're not around. So by asking those questions, by you educating your clients, you're allowing them to go out to the golf course or out into life and be able to say, oh, I know this. I know how I'm going to react. Now I'm going to make a different choice and shift in this direction. So you provide those tools to allow us to implement even when you're not there. And that empowerment is what is a huge, in my mind, and all of you can correct me if I'm wrong, in my mind is what differentiates talk therapy from this experiential therapy, where you're being met exactly where you are, because it is you and you're executing that. Angelique, did you find that experience as well? And tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yes. So I kind of went in and I didn't know what to expect, even though I'm in the holistic field. I don't know, I've gone for regular therapy before, I've gone for grief recovery, and I just didn't really know what to expect. And I kind of went in with an open mind. And I have to say that it was something that I've never experienced before, and that really helped me, especially my second session. I had gone through something traumatic literally the day before. And Marianne really just brings you into the present moment. She hones in and sees exactly what is affecting you and helps you better listen to your body, whether you're in tune or not. She kind of calms your nervous system down, just with her energy. And she helps you process through whatever is going on in your body in a very gentle way, and really just helps you understand why you're getting certain signals from your body. And I think that is the most profound thing for me, because I mean, I think I'm pretty in tune, but sometimes you're caught up in everything that's going on in the world, and you have to kind of, you're not listening to your body all the time. And she brings you into the moment so that you can deal with whatever you're going through right there, then and there.
Yeah, beautifully stated. And just for our listeners, what do you do for a living, Angelique?
So I am a nutritionist, and I am also trained in muscle testing and NET, which is neuroemotional techniques. So I use some modalities as well, and hers is unlike anything else I've ever experienced in my life. And it goes hand in hand with what I do. And I've found myself recommending a lot of people to her, because whether you have pain or emotional trauma, or just like need to just deal with whatever is going on in your day-to-day life, she can really like help you in a different way than I could ever help somebody.
But you also help identify things that are in our bodies, and you could actually determine with some methods of allergies that you might have, and why you're feeling the way you are, and you help people get better. Oh my gosh, I've heard so many people talking about, thank you so much, you made me feel better, and you gave them herbs and things like that. So I love what you do, and for you to speak about what Marianne does. Being in the service industry, being in the healthcare area, it is, and a healthcare provider, it is so magical that you are as well. Like, wow, this is so cool, because that's what struck me. I'm like, oh, this is new. I like this. So it really, really cool. And Vivana, what do you do for a living?
I'm a Pilates rehabilitative specialist. So I'm a body worker, but also I'm going to be a somatic experiencing practitioner this year. So I'm completing my SEP this year. So I combine mind and body and nervous system. And that's the only way. I started with the body. Well, I started really with the mind at first. And then I was like, no, it's not there. We can't really relieve pain, emotional pain, trauma with the mind alone. So I moved over to yoga and Pilates and all these body methods like acupressure and Tai Chi and energy healings and all that. And I was like, yeah, this is great, but I really miss the mind. So I combined both. And now is when I'm really getting results with my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. I'm looking at this window of 4. And I'm like, make a good wellness center. Just saying.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I do sound healing as well. I do Kundalini yoga meditation. So I also add those modalities. I'm a big essential oil. I infuse it with my clients as well, for those who are open to it. Journaling. There's just so many different modalities that I add. And now being able to add the modalities that you're offering is just magical again for me, because I get excited for my clients, because I'm like, wait, I got an answer for this. Let me speak to Angelique, speak to Marianne, speak to Vivana. So I think it's amazing. And full disclosure to the listeners and to our viewers here today, I have never met Vivana before, and Angelique and I have met, but I haven't utilized her services yet. So it really isn't a setup where it's just like, okay, shameless plugs for all these people. It really is speaking about what Marianne does. And I think it's so amazing that, people in the same industry that in some people's minds would be competitors. And I don't believe in that. I believe there's plenty for everyone, and we all have our purpose, and we all are in servitude, right, to each other, that we only enhance and make each other better by coming together and doing things like this. I think it's just amazing how you rave about what she does and that experience. I loved how you laid it out and painted the picture, Angelique. It was quite beautiful. Vivana, what were your big takeaways, not getting personal, obviously, but what were your big takeaways from that first experience that you had with Marianne?
Oh my God. So the most amazing experience that I had with Marianne was working through a near drowning experience, where someone tried to drown me at a very early age. I was like maybe 9 or 10 years old. And I didn't even know. Going into that session, I had absolutely no memory of this. And I didn't realize how this experience had been informing every single decision in my life since I was about 10 years old. And when that happened, immediately after that session, I reacted differently to something in my life that I would have reacted. Just the pattern was gone. And I was like, no, I know what this feels like. And I'm not going to engage it in the same way. And I engaged it so differently. And it felt like my space had been opened.
Yes.
Like the world was now my stage.
Yeah. It allows us to make different choices. You know, it's and being informed of why we were doing what we were doing. Before, we were just doing it because we thought that's what we do. Now we're educated and informed in ourselves of, oh, that's why we're doing that. Yeah, I don't want to play that way anymore, and allows us to shift into doing it a different way. And I love that. That's why knowledge and awareness, and I talk about that with my clients. When you're aware of a problem, when you're aware you're not doing something well, when you're aware you do something very well, you then can make different choices based on that. And that goes back to an equation I share all the time, which is E plus R equals O. And events plus your response, your only point of power, equals whatever that outcome is going to be. And we can, with our response, change the outcome. Everything else we can't change, but we can, through how we respond, change the outcome and our feeling associated with it. So, to go through this system, knowing that equation, that is my life equation, knowing that it gives me that 100% responsibility to myself. And it gets me to show up really well. Did you find that, Angelique, that you showed up a little differently after your sessions?
Yeah, my awareness was like on hyper alert afterwards, and she told me that would probably happen. And I did definitely respond to situations that I would normally pounce, or I wouldn't wait. I found myself more like pausing and being like, all right, why is this happening? And what can I do differently so that I'm not getting the same reaction from the person, or getting a different reaction than I did before?
Yeah, I love that you said the pausing, because I experienced that myself. I'm noticing that I'm pausing because my initial out is, okay, boom, all right, let's go. Whereas now it's like, all right, what am I supposed to learn here? What is actually being said? Don't take it personally. I go back to the 4 agreements. Don't take it personally. Right. And really think about and be mindful of what my response is. And that again was connected to that experience before. Before it was like, hey, I'm here. Hey, I'm here. I feel seen and heard. And that's the other thing, Marianne, you make us all feel seen and heard. I don't mean to speak on your behalf, ladies, but I'm sure you felt the same thing. We felt seen and heard. And the number one thing that America, that the universe, that not the universe, but the whole world, we don't feel seen and heard. We don't feel seen and heard by our elected officials. We don't feel seen and heard by our authority figures. We don't feel seen and heard. And here we are not only seen, but we are heard. And it is so reinforced, which empowers us to say, okay, pay it forward and make sure we see and hear the people that we serve. Do you agree with that?
I do. I also, this is Marianne speaking up. I also want to give a plug to Angelique.
Oh yeah, Marianne. I forgot.
And she and I have done some very exciting work together. I'm feeling much better with the things that she has been giving me supplements for, muscle testing. And so she's just an extremely wonderful practitioner, and I'm very happy and satisfied, and will be bringing my husband to her for an appointment for his wellness. And then also just to say that she and I have actually discussed combining forces with using the muscle testing and helping to discover and fortify clients in a playful session with crystals and that they can wear in bracelet form that they build. And I'll help them learn how to do that. And then they can go out in public and feel fortified with crystals that have been matched to protect their nervous system.
Beautiful. And then I can add my meditation for them, and they'll be really fortified. But back to the kinesthetics that you're doing, Angelique, the muscle testing. I use that with my clients. I help them learn how to utilize that. I also do the body shift. So that you find out what's yes, what's no for you, and ask yourself a question. Your body will tell you all your success codes. Oh my gosh, you listeners probably sick of hearing me saying this, but all your success codes are already inside. We need to trust our intuition and what our hearts are saying. Stop thinking up here, get out of your head. Gosh, I've heard so many people say that to me. Now I'm doing it so much better. We work from our hearts. We think from our hearts. I know that's not what we think we do, but we think from our hearts. Our heads solve the problem. So if we go into life with our heart center and really think from our hearts, we will never, ever have a bad day because you're sitting in the place of joy, in a place of happiness, and going at it from the right perspective. Right, Viviana? I see you shaking your head like, yes.
Absolutely.
Preach, girl.
Absolutely. Our body, I love how you said it, that our body holds the treasure of what's right for each individual. And it might be different from one individual to the next. And if we just become more adept at going inward, then our outer worlds will become much more amenable and happy.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So when
I'd
we
like to springboard off of what Viviana is saying too, because what happens too is, we get the brain gets confused. The neocortex, the upper portion of our reasoning brain, gets confused. It gets on spin cycle. It's also where we access language and we communicate and we do math. But that part of the brain, it works so slowly for processing things, and we need to go to the deeper mammalian and reptilian brains, fight, flight, freeze, and our emotions down there. If we can listen to our body and trust the body sensations, because that neocortex is our frenemy. It can it can reason us through, or it can keep us on spin cycle. And so if we learn to listen to the nervous system, then we can process through these old hurts and shift our perspective.
Yeah, it's so that area of our brain actually is supposed to protect us by saying, no, wait, don't go. But that same part of our brain is our very block to say, oh, wait, don't try that either. And we're like,
that's
wait.
The prefrontal cortex that makes us, that's where we develop the stop, don't do. It's also where we spin from with the neocortex. But if we are able to access the energy of the reptilian and the mammalian brain, then we process super fast.
Yes. And self-acceptance, back to what we were talking about before, Vivian, self-acceptance within ourselves allow us to be accepted in the outer world as well. So until we self-accept ourselves for who we are, good, bad, and ugly, we all have good, we all have bad, we all have ugly. Let's just face it. And we just try to make the other two better so that we have a lot more good. That's what we're aiming for. But just that we have to all be unique. One, it would be boring if we weren't. And two, it's that very uniqueness is exactly our purpose for being here, to bring that to the world. So fitting in, normal, those terms don't resonate with me because there's no such thing. I prefer it when we don't fit in. That means we're being genuinely ourselves. I am so grateful for both of you for being on and coming. And any last thoughts, Angelique, that you want to say about Marianne and the practice that she has? And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My big takeaways from her is that she really just makes you feel safe. And I think a lot of people don't feel like that. So that has really, really helped me and helped me feel like heard and like I could express whatever I need to express without judgment. And the other thing I wanted to say was that, kind of going off what you were saying before, that the body is born with everything that it needs. And a lot of what I do is also education. So if, just like what Marianne was saying, even if we're going to go do the crystal discovery next week, if you're holding whether it's a supplement, a person, like anything, and see if you can tell if your body wants it or not. Like if it goes away, like that's no good for you. If it goes towards it, if you go forwards, your body needs that. And I'll tell my patients that. And I also, I feel like you can even do it with thoughts emotionally. Like if you're thinking about somebody or a situation that you're dealing with, find out if it's right for you.
You can. That's excellent. Very sage. And Viviana, last thoughts?
Last thoughts.
And
just,
thank you.
Definitely, if you get a chance to work with Marianne, whether it's on Zoom or in person, I definitely recommend that. It'll change your life. It did mine. And from a body worker perspective, just to all the listeners, listen to your body. Slow down. Slow down. Everything's there. Just really amplify your ear and fine tune. And it's all your answers are within.
And I'm just going to throw another word in there for both of you ladies. Trust it. It's accurate. Trust it. It'll work. And when you do, it's fun. You're like, that worked. Okay, let's do this again. It actually becomes a game. At least it does for me. I don't know. Marianne, you are magnificent. That's why we're here to talk about that. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you being on. Any last thoughts for you?
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so touched by all of your sweet words from all of you. That makes me feel so good. And I treasure positively impacting people to help themselves, help themselves. And I have to say also, Vivana, that she is considering training also into brain spotting. So she's going to bring her mix and magic to all of this from her Pilates background. It's very exciting.
Love it. We are here. We're here and meant to elevate the world right now. And I'm watching 3 leaders here and listening to 3 leaders here who are elevating the world and making the world a better place. Thank you all for being on, Marianne. I'm so grateful for you. And Viviana, thank you so much. Both of you, angels. Thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I hope we earned the privilege of your time. And I want to again thank our guests today, Marianne, Vivana, and Angelique. And if you're looking for a business coach, accountability, strategy, direction, a sounding board, or someone to help streamline your business and more, or if you're not sure, feel free to reach out to us at 516-983-3591. And let's see if it's a good fit so we can help you soar to success. Thank you again for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. Look for our show next week. Until then, and until next time, I am Lorianne Casdia. Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. Ladies, rock stars. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.